I just want to have paper.
You could.
Okay, so for this lecture, we're going to talk about nutrition labeling, which is legally required by the government, has been for a number of years. Most recently in 1997, they modernized it and added more things and more regulations that have to be there. So the agencies that regulate nutrition labeling are the Food and Drug Administration, the Food Safety Department of the government, and the United States Department of Agriculture. Also then, when you find the regulations, you can go to the Federal Register, which if you Google Federal Register, it will take you right there, which gives you the Code of Federal Regulations. So that's all the legal stuff if you really want to read through it about labeling. If you're getting new product, it might be worth your time to read through this because you may add an ingredient or add a type of product that you're not used to dealing with, so it may actually change what you put on your labels. Labels have to be very specific, and they're actually part of your food safety program. So in 1973, they only required labeling for added nutrients or nutritional claim. So in general then, you only needed the serving size, the servings per container, etc., what you see on the screen here, and some of the recommended daily allowances. In 1990, they got more specific, the federal government did, because they wanted to make sure that people actually had included everything that they're claiming. So for instance, if someone claimed that it was low fat, it had to be low fat. It had to meet a certain percentage. That needed to be on the label. They also gave states the authority to enforce certain regulations because it really was too big of a project for the whole government, the federal government, to keep track of. Misbranding, though, however, if someone says something's in there and it's not, or vice versa, something's not in there and they don't, or something is in there and they don't claim it, that's called misbranding. That is actually a punishable crime, so that they retained under federal authority. And the ingredients had to be declared starting in 1990. If you've ever tried to read a nutrition label, some of that can be pretty big words, a lot of chemistry. We will actually in lab look at a few nutrition labels and go through some of these concepts. In 2003 then they added the trans fatty acid declaration. Really what trans fatty acids are just the fats that are going to plug up your arteries. They tend to be higher in processed foods. It's due to the structure of the fat itself. So because there was a link between arterial plaque, heart disease, heart attacks, and obviously death, they wanted people to be really aware of what was in their food as far as these worse or bad fats. So what we're going to talk about is just what is mandatory on the nutrition label. As long as facilities have the minimum mandatory items on the label, they're good. Lots of people add other things, so on their label, of course, to sell it or market the product. For voluntary nutrition labeling, which things like raw fruit, vegetables, fish, single ingredient raw meat and poultry products, the requirements are different depending on the product. So what products have to be labeled? Pretty much everything that's offered for sale and regulated by the FDA and the FSIS, including most meat products, and poultry. So if you're going to eat it, it should have a label on it. I noticed that's one of the things that's different now than when I was a kid. All the meat that was cut up in the grocery store, in the deli, and packaged in the deli used to not have labels on it other than what it was. Now it's specifically labeled with what it is, what the percent fat is, when it expires, when it was packaged, all of those. So you don't think about it so much anymore because it's kind of standard. So what has to be on the food label? So for instance, if you're going to make your own little food manufacturing plant out of your kitchen and you're going to sell the food as ready to eat, you still have to have a label on it. So it has to have the serving size. So is a serving size 8 ounces? Is it 16 ounces? Is it 1 cup? Is it a quarter cup? Is it 5 pieces? What is a serving size? And then how many servings per container? this is a part of the equation where consumers get, so to speak, fooled. So if I have a small bag of potato chips, I really need to look, what is the serving size? Is it 10 chips? Is it 20 chips? And then in my bag, do I have 2 servings or 1 serving? This was a big deal about a year ago or 2 years ago when they came out with things like 20-ounce pop or 20-ounce milk or 24-ounce whatever. What is the serving size and how many servings per container? Because when you start listing calories, you may actually have double the amount of calories in that container depending on the serving size than what you think. Okay, so moving on, besides serving size and servings per container, there's 13 nutrients that are required. We'll talk about a little more. If they're contained in the food, then they have to be on there. And then how much of each nutrient is in each serving? So for instance, if the single serving contains 35 grams of fat, we need to know that. If there's 2 servings in the bottle and there's 70 grams of fat in the whole thing, a lot of times you'll see another column where it has 35, which is the 1 per serving. And we'll be looking at some of these labels also in lab. They also want to know the amount of each nutrient as a percent of the daily value. So they base that on a standard 2,000 calorie diet. So for instance, how much vitamin A is here? Is it what percent of the daily recommended value? And then there has to be a footnote for the daily values for the selected nutrients. So the 13 required nutrients are these, okay? They're pretty self-explanatory. You see them on labels all the time without even thinking about it. The key is if they're in that product, then they have to be on that label, okay? So you can't have a bar that's high in sugar but not list sugar on the label. They have to be on the label. In our next lecture, we're going to talk a little bit more about serving size and kind of get into the details regarding these nutrients. In other lectures, we will talk about exactly what these nutrients are. We'll touch on a few of them here. But for now, stay tuned. I don't know how to stop.
More. Try to go back up. So relax and then more. And then stop recording.